Welcome to Lingua Latīna tutorials with Mr. K, Pensum D. This video explains the new grammar and syntax found in chapter 27 of the Lingua Latīna per se Illustrāta series. It is meant to accompany the Latina disco text available from Focus bookstores and the Pensum D worksheets available from 50%latin.blogspot.com or christianlanguage.com. Let's get into the text. Look at our first new feature in line 18. So here in line 18 we have falce metitur. Falce metitur. It is cut down, or it is harvested with a falx, so with a sickle. It is harvested with a sickle. This word falce is in the ablative. It's from falx. You see that falcus is a feminine noun of the third declension. Remember our gender rule for the third declension. Nouns that end in S, O, or X in the nominative tend to be feminine, as the sickle is here. So it is harvested by a sickle. This is an ablative of instrument, related closely to the ablative of means, often put together with the ablative of means. By what thing is it done? It is done by or with a sickle. The next new feature is in line 21, where we have qui arat aratro utitur. The person who is plowing uses a plow. So we have the verb form from arara, to plow, the person who plows, and then the noun that comes from this verb, aratrum, which is the actual device itself, the plow. And it's in the ablative case here, aratro, because it's with utitur. The verb utitur, or uti usum esse, in the margin, you see it's a deponent verb, uti to use, usum esse to have used, plus the ablative. It's going to take an ablative of means. It's the thing that you're using. So what is the device, the instrument, the means by which you're going to accomplish something? It's so utitur is going to take an ablative noun. The next new feature is in line 30, where we have Italia est terra fertilis, sed multa loca Italiae non arantur, nec ullas fruges ferunt, etc. So we have Italy is a fertile land, but many places of Italy are not plowed. And multa loca, we see that loca, places, is from the second declension noun locus, loci. So locus loci, rather than having loci, the nominative plural, which you'd expect from a second declension noun like locus, you end up with the neuter plural form that replaces it. So loca locorum replaces loci locorum from locus. The next new feature is in line 55. Down to 55, and we have ne in Campania quidem plures villae sunt, quamquam multi Romani in ora maritima, etc. So ne plus quidem means not even. Okay, so in the not even in Campania are there more villas. So there aren't even more villas in Campania. So not even, this word en ne quidem can throw you off, because when you see a ne, as we're gonna, it can introduce a subjunctive clause like ut, or it could just be a negative particle. But when it's so it could throw you off. You could be looking for a subjunctive verb after it and miss the quidem that comes after. But ne sandwiching a phrase like in Campania means not even. The next new feature is on line 63, where we have, let's see, existemat tamen se prae agricolis beatum esse censet. Nevertheless, he believes, this is Julius, believes or thinks that he is blessed more than the farmers are, more than the farmers. Prae agricolis. Prae, the preposition prae, meaning instead of or before or more than. This word takes the ablative case. So agricolis is ablative plural, before or more than his farmers. This the other prepositions, and this is just a quick review, that take the ablative are ab, cum de, ex in pro, sine sub, and then we have prae coram. Those prepositions you should memorize if you haven't done so yet, and remember that those are the ones that take the ablative case. The next, and one other point about agricolis here, remember that the gender of agricolis is masculine. It's agricola, it's one of the pacapains, one of those P-A-C-A-P-A-I-N-S first declension masculine nouns, like poeta, agricola, collega, incola, etc., pirata. Okay, so make sure that you've memorized that list as well, and so you know the genders of your nouns. The next new feature is in line 73. Let's go down to 73, and we have et mercedem domino solvit pro frugibus agrorum. So, and he pays, is talking about the tenant farmer, the colonus. The colonus pays his master a payment, or rent, for the pro frugibus, for the fruits of the fields, for the things that the fields produce, the produce of the fields. Frugibus comes from fruges, which is only a plural. It's only a plural noun. It's feminine, and it is ablative here. Why is it ablative? Because we have the preposition pro. We saw pro domino, pro plus the ablative, pro frugibus, pro plus the ablative again. It's one of those ab cum de ex in pro, sine sub prae coram prepositions. The next new feature is in line 78, where we have Dominus imperat ut colonus accedat. The master orders that his tenant farmer approach him. The master orders his tenant farmer to approach him. This ut clause here, ut plus accedat, is what we call an indirect command. This word accedat comes from accedere, which means to approach, and the verb form accedere, to approach, has changed its mood. This is a third person singular, present, subjunctive active. The subjunctive mood is one of the four moods. So you've learned, this is your introduction to the last of the four moods. You've learned the indicative, the imperative, the infinitive, and now the subjunctive mood. The subjunctive, it's useful to compare it to the indicative to show what the subjunctive is not. The indicative tells you about the way the world is, the way that things you could verify. He is eating dinner. You could go and you could observe him eating dinner, or he ate dinner. You could have taken a picture of him eating his dinner. It's something that's factual in the world. it's verifiable. The subjunctive does not deal with the verifiable or the real. It deals with the potential, the things that might occur, the things that could be, or that you hope will be. The Romans were very clear in distinguishing fact from potential. So notice that the master commands his tenant farmer to approach. The tenant farmer has not yet approached. Okay, so it's not a fact. It's nothing you could take a picture of. It's nothing that you could have yet verified. It's something that the master wants to happen, that he expects will happen, that he's ordering to happen, but it has not yet happened. So that is the realm of the subjunctive. That's the syntax of the subjunctive. Now, the actual form of the subjunctive. To form our subjunctive, you generally, for the present subjunctive, active and passive, you add an A in front of your personal endings, which you see here, a k dot instead of a k dit. You get a k dot. So you add an A for the second, third, and fourth conjugations. So the era, ira verbs get an A. The ara verbs, like amara or laudara, that A turns into an E. So for the first conjugation, you get an E in front of the personal endings. For the second, third, and fourth conjugations, you get an A. So, if we were going to conjugate akedra in the subjunctive, present active subjunctive as you see it here, we would have akedam, akedas, akedat, akedamus, akedatis, akedant. The next new feature, and we'll see some more subjunctive as we get later in this chapter, the next new feature is in line 80, where we have cur nondum solvistim mercedem quam ter quater yam abste poposki. So why haven't you yet paid my rent, or the payment, which I have demanded abste from you? I've already demanded from you ter quaterve, 3 or 4 times. Here we have a rare form, or a form of ob, and ob, that only shows up with te. Obste, from you. So it replaces ob or te. The next new feature is in line 83, where we have colonos pallidus praemetu loqui non potest. So the tenant farmer, pale, because he's afraid, pale is not able to speak praemetu because of his fear. Prae takes the ablative, so we know that metu is ablative. It comes from metus metus. It's a fourth declension noun. That's why you get this long U in the ablative. So this is a masculine singular ablative with pri. And the reason for it, subjunctive, is because it's with the preposition. It's with ablative with the preposition pri. The next new feature is in line 89. And here we have servis meis imperabo ut te agris meis pelant. So we have 2 features to point out here. First of all, we have the indirect command again, imperabo ut. I will command that pelant, that they expel you, or they drive you away from my fields. So I will command my slaves, remember that imperabo takes the dative here, servis meis. I will command my slaves to drive you away from my fields. Agris meis, in the ablative case, why is it ablative? It's ablative of separation, drive you away from. So there's an implied ob here, away from my fields. Pellant is subjunctive, from pellera, to drive. and the E has turned into an A here, as we saw in line 78 with a K dot. The next new feature is in line 90, where we have Jam 3 menses expecto ut ea pecunia mihi solvatur. So now for 3 months I've been waiting so that that money be paid to me. Here we have another ut clause. It's a different kind of ut clause, but ut with the subjunctive afterward, solvere, to pay, to loosen. Notice that the solvere, the E, has turned into an A, indicating the subjunctive, and that you can have a subjunctive passive just as you can have the active. So solvat, I'm expecting you to pay, solvat. You could also say I'm expecting ut solvatur, that it be paid, subjunctive passive, but it still has this A in the second, third, and fourth conjugations to indicate the subjunctive form. If we're going to conjugate solvatur, we would have in the first person singular solvar, and then solvaris, solvatur, second and third person singular, solvamur, solvamini, solvantur for the first, second, third person plural. The next new feature is in line 126. And here in line 126 we see, we'll start at 25, itaque vos moneo ut industriae in vineis laboretis. And so I warn you to work hard in the vineyards. So laboretis here, we have another indirect command. I'm advising you or I'm warning you. Notice it doesn't. The indirect command does not have to start with imperabo or imperio. I command you. I could advise you. I could warn you. Other words that would indicate a command to follow. I advise you to work. Laboretis, what is this from? Well, it's from laborare. So it's from a first conjugation verb, laborare. The A in laborare, when it turns into a subjunctive, becomes an E. So instead of laboratis, you guys are working, second person plural, present active indicative, or in present indicative active, you get laboratis, second person plural, present subjunctive active. So if we were going to conjugate laboratis, we would have ace et, amus atus ent as the endings of the subjunctive. So there is a little, to remember which vowels go before our endings, there's a phrase, let's eat caviar. Let's eat caviar, to help you remember what those vowels would be for the first, second, third, and fourth conjugation. So let's eat caviar. Let's is the E, that is for the first conjugation. Eat has the EA, that is for the second conjugation. And caviar has the A for the third conjugation and the IA for the fourth conjugations. So if we were going to give examples of each of those vowels, the E, EA, A, and IA, we could take example verbs from each conjugation, like amare, to love. If it were subjunctive, would be amem, amer. You see the A showing up there. Monera, to warn, becomes moneam and monear, so that I warn or that I be warned. The EA shows up. The for ducere, to lead, we had ut, he commands me to, that I lead, ducam, with an with the A there, and then ducar, that I be led. If we took audira, to hear, he commands me ut audiam, that I listen, or ut audiar, that I be heard. So what is the way that this subjunctive in the first conjugation differs from the others is because it's it has an E rather than the A that all the other ones do. Okay, the next new feature is in line 139. And we have pastores officium est curare ne oves aberrent neve silvam petant. So it's the duty of the shepherd to take care, or to be careful, that the sheep not wander away. Ne, we see in the margin, means ut ne. This is the way that we form our negative indirect command. Commands them that they not. Ut ne. So you get the same kind of subjunctive forms after ne that you would after ut. So ne aberrent is from aberrare, to wander away, and the A has turned into an E, just like we saw with laboratis above. And then petant comes from petera, so the E has become an A, as we see for the second, third, and fourth conjugations. The next new feature is in line 174. And let's go down to 174. And here we have noli me officio meo prohibera. Don't keep me from my duty, or don't prohibit me from doing my duty. So don't, this officio meo is an ablative of separation again, just like we saw earlier, when you don't need to have an ob from to have an ablative of separation. Just the idea of being kept away from something can give you an ablative of separation. So don't keep me from my duty. Officio meo, ablative showing motion away from or separation. The last new feature in this chapter is in line 177, and we see vix haec dixerat Julius cum pastor quam celere me potest ad ove suas currit. So Julius had barely said these things when the shepherd, quam celere me potest, as quickly as he was able, ran up, or as quickly as he is able, runs up to his sheep. Quam celere me. When you have quam plus a superlative, like celereme, you translate it as this thing as possible. So we see in the margin, quam celereme potest, as quickly as he is able, means tam celerite quam maxime fieri potest, as quickly as greatly as it's possible to happen. So anyway, best translation, as blank as possible. Quam celereme. So those are all of our new features for chapter 27. Thanks for listening.